This is deep dive number 3 on the CAMPSITE of Developmental Readiness infographic. The CAMPSITE maps readiness for coping in the real world. You see, school is not a dress rehearsal. Emotional development takes place in classrooms just as surely as campsites, if classrooms are designed with kids in mind, right? I'm saying there must be 3 emotional spaces in our design to get a good enough developmental fit for kids. The 3 emotional spaces are virtual places, creating feelings of belonging, along with opportunities to be yourself and become even more. To belong depends on attachment, and that's the RV space. To be yourself depends on exploration, and that takes place at the waterfront. And then to become even more depends on communication, which occurs spontaneously at a good campfire. A good developmental fit for kids is the best foundation for 3 different kinds of capacities to develop in young children and continue to develop in teens. Readiness capacities to participate, which I outlined in deep dive number 2, readiness capacities for learning tasks, and readiness capacities for completing tasks, both of which I'll talk about now. The miracle is that all these capacities get a head start through play. So here's the truth about play. Play naturally builds several wonderful capacities for learning. Here are 6 capacities to get kids ready for learning tasks. 1, self-initiative. This is the capacity to get started, right? Kids initiate play all on their own. 2, attitude. Kids of any age show an open-minded eagerness and energy when they play. 3, aptitude. Because play is a natural activity of most animals. All children have a natural ability to play. 4, knowledge. Even young kids have a surprising amount of knowledge since their brain is a sponge. 5, skill. Just like the brain is a knowledge sponge, the body is a skill sponge. The body is equipped to interface with the world using skills guided by our many sensory systems. And number 6 on this list is a sense of completion. Now, not all kids arrive at school with a strong sense of completion. This is because play mode is all about exploring, experiencing, and expressing, but not always task completion. So did you get that list of 6? Self-initiative, attitude, aptitude, knowledge, skill, and sense of completion. These capacities are intact unless there has been something missing from this child or teen's campsite. Some of these capacities will be lacking if attachment has been lacking, or ample exploration has not been allowed, or communication has not been generous enough. And this is true of teens as well as younger children. But when a child or teen's campsite is a good developmental fit, the only capacity which might be weak is that sense of completion. Kids who have not been expected to do family chores, like making beds or setting the table or planting the garden, for example, these kids will have a weak sense of task completion. They don't get the point of finishing all the way to completion. But when young children start school, they begin that shift from play mode to work mode. A sense of completion grows at school because we guide kids through the learning task we've designed to get the learning outcomes we expect. By making sure kids are interested in the learning activities and know what the learning outcome could be, most kids are happy to work toward a sense of completion. So here are the 7 readiness capacities for task completion. 1, problem solving. Problem solving grows when adults encourage kids to think like a scientist or a detective by asking, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to make? Or what are you trying to learn? Problem solving relies on communication. So kids should ask lots of questions. I tell kids to make adults work for you by asking questions. 2, persistence. Persistence develops when kids are expected to notice when their energy is running low, to then take a break or ask for encouragement, because persistence grows stronger when kids can lean on relationships. 3, use wait and listen. To wait and listen is patience in action. And adults can prime kids to tap into their patience and relax into listening, and even show kids how to borrow someone else's patience by exploring details of a learning task with a peer or mentor. 4, the fourth capacity is self-talk. Self-talk is the inner voice everyone has. I tell kids, your inner voice should be your best friend. Even when your voice sounds like mom or dad, your inner voice should motivate you by being kind and encouraging in the face of challenges, and discipline you by judging right from wrong. Best friends always tell the truth, and kids need mindful ways to explore their self-talk. 5, we need to create a sense of time. And in school, we use that by using timers, clocks, or even songs to mark and measure time. And 6 is to create a sense of steps by chunking schoolwork into manageable parts. Make a list to check off the steps as they're completed and know what to tackle next. And also 7, create a sense of goals by knowing what the end product should be, what it should look like, or what details the finished product must include. So kids will need exemplars to examine, or they need to use familiar formats to exercise their sense of goals. Yes, measuring time, chunking work into steps, and realizing the finished product are ways to develop a sense of time, steps, and goals. Teachers usually have many ways to help kids develop a sense of time, steps, and goals, and protect them from failure. When schools use these lists of task readiness capacities and task completion capacities, there is a lot to talk with parents about. So I'm going to put it this way. If I am the parent who is called to the school because my child is not doing well, then I want to understand why, what's going wrong, plus how can I help? I want to hear what the school will do and also what I can do. So the teacher might say, your child is not ready or willing to do the work I ask. And so I ask why. And if the teacher cannot describe developmental readiness, then they usually say, your kid is not motivated. They're too distracted. They're not serious about learning or something like that. I would rather hear the teacher say, your child is not ready or willing to do the work I ask because there are some missing basic ingredients. The teacher might then say, I noticed 2 ingredients that are missing, a lack of persistence, and there's no sense of steps to work through this assignment. And then the teacher will continue to say, so I am trying 2 things. First, your child is encouraged to give me the timeout signal when they are too frustrated or low energy to keep working. They get to take a break, ask me questions, or check in with a friend. And then I ask them to get back to work as a way to practice persistence. And second, I chunk the assignment into parts for the whole class. And with your child and a few others, I give 1 chunk at a time and then check progress. This way, I can emphasize the sense of steps that all kids need to tackle bigger projects and not feel discouraged. And then the teacher should ask, do you see these issues at home? What have you tried? And what could you try? You see, the teacher doesn't have to frame problems as misbehavior. Instead, the teacher opens with great information about child development, kids' emotions, and how the relationship with the teacher protects both development and emotions when the student is having the most difficulty. Behavior incidents are not first on the agenda, but if school consequences are absolutely required, then the school administrator takes charge of the meeting. At least the most productive ideas are generated first. And it would be ideal if the school counselor could use the campsite with parents. The counselor doesn't need to know this child in minute detail to say, school is challenging, but success is supported by 3 spaces that we design into classrooms, kind of like a campsite. One is a safe and comforting environment of friends supporting friends, with the teacher setting the tone. And that gives kind of rest and relaxation, like at the RV space. The second space, 2, is time to explore new ideas for wonder and surprise, like at the waterfront. And 3 is discussion at the campfire to challenge ideas and attitudes. At home, kids need time every day to rest and recharge in relationships with family. And they need free time for personal favorite activities and time for discussions to say what they think out loud, but also have their ideas and attitudes challenged. As the parent, I can decide what to volunteer to discuss in this moment, but also I have a takeaway to reflect on. I can share the campsite with my spouse or extended family and continue to consider what to do to get good balance at home. At the very least, the parent has a better understanding of the readiness issues in class and the developmental needs of their own child. It's a very powerful idea that all flourishing is mutual. It's so true. When kids are stressed, then parents and teachers are stressed too. So please take a look at all 3 deep dives on this campsite infographic to consider how to see developmental readiness in children and teens.